Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of TRCOA's Behind the Groove. If you're here live, please introduce yourself and ask questions in the chat as we go along. This episode is sponsored by Stinson Recording Studios. Also, if you find this content useful, please like this video, and if you are new, please subscribe to our channel. We make new content every week. Today we are proud to have Ben Kliever. He's going to do a tutorial on Autotune and Melodyne. Ben is the owner of Nebula 88 Studios and one of TRCOA's beginning recording techniques instructors. Without further ado, Ben Kliever.
Hey everyone, welcome back to TRCOA's Behind the Groove seminar. I'm Ben Kliever, and tonight we're going to be talking about vocal tuning. I am pulling up Pro Tools right now, trying to get Melodyne to load. I'm having an issue right now, so hopefully this gets loaded and shows up. There we go. Still having some loading issues with Melodyne. We'll see if we can get that up and running here, since that's going to be the main thing of my lesson tonight. Let's see if we can stop getting this computer to do the spinning wheel of death on me here. Man, having some issues with Melodyne tonight, so. And I can't get Pro Tools to work right now. I apologize for the start, guys, but we'll just have to give it a minute. I'm not sure what's going on with the computer tonight or with these plugins, but let me see. Well, I can know plugins, but this seems like a different issue than the plugin, so I'm not sure what's wrong here, but I actually can't get this to respond at all. I'm going to try to restart the computer because I'm not sure what's going to happen with this because I can't get this to work properly. So what we're going to be talking about, I'll just kind of go over and view just kind of an overview of Melodyne and Autotune while this is reloading. Hopefully we can get everything up and running properly so I can show you all how to do this. So the first thing I want to talk about is Melodyne. So those of you who haven't heard of Melodyne, it is a vocal tuning program, which is literally the best one out there. It's like the industry standard you're using on vocals. It is super subtle. You can go into unbelievable amounts of detail. The other one we'll be looking at tonight is Autotune. Autotune as well is a vocal tuning plugin. It's good at tightening and putting stuff directly to notes, and it's good at using as more as an effect, but it is not as subtle and you can't get as controlled as you can with Melodyne. So with Melodyne, it's something where you can really control exactly every single way that a singer is approaching the word and the vocal takes that they are doing. And so that it's something that, I mean, if you're going to even use Melodyne, like if I was like outside of maybe doing some hip hop stuff where I'm using Autotune just to make it sound like how a lot of Autotune is used in hip hop stuff, I might not Melodyne that, but literally anything else that I am going to be like if it's a singing vocal and I'm going to be correcting it, I'm going to be using Melodyne first because it has more control and it's more subtle. And if I'm using something where I don't want that auto-tune even sound or even close to effect, I'm not even going to put auto-tune after it. So keep that in mind. Like auto-tune is going to be something that's going to be more, you want that sound of that super tightened, polished kind of pop sound kind of to it. So it helps add to that, where Melodyne is something that you can use on absolutely every genre possible out there. So let's try this again, get Pro Tools open, and let's see if we can get Melodyne to work correctly. If not, we'll look at Auto-Tune, and that's what we can look at tonight, and we'll try and make up and do Melodyne another time. But hopefully we can get it to do what we want. So. The old loading, waiting for all this stuff to initialize. And hey Corey, hey Michaela, hope you all have been doing well. I'm glad y'all are in here. Okay, let's see if we can get this to work this time. Probably take it a minute to go through all the tracks in this to restore everything, so that should be just a moment. And then we can really dive more into this once I get this stuff going. All right, so let's hope that this plugin is going to work now and we can take a look at it. If not, we will see what we can do from there. Okay, please let me work this plugin. Okay. Looks like it is going to work now, so that is good news. Okay, so I wanted to see right quick what the number is. I believe this is Melodyne 4. Oh, this is Melodyne 2. Okay, wow. So, okay, so this is just a much older version of what's going on. I'm using Melodyne 5 at this point, which it's very similar. They just have some movements of where, like, the tools are mainly going to be the same. There's actually a whole new section of tools that's under this Amplitude tool now where you can control sibilance and you can also control fade, like how big the fades are going on there. But glad we got Melodyne going on, so now we can actually take a look at all this stuff and go through there. Okay, so we're going to take a look at what's going on here. So this is from the same song as what we were looking at last week from We Hide the Sky from my Infinite Era project. So you're going to hear some very raw vocals right here. Where last week we were more processing and getting vocals sounding how we want them to. So we'll do like we're gonna go through, and this is for all the vocal tuning. This is what you would do after you've tracked vocals, then after you've done your comping and your editing, and then you would come in, and then this is when you would do your Melodyne tuning. It would be the next thing you would do after you've done your comping and your editing from that, so you have your final takes there. Because we actually have to send this audio directly into here. So once it goes into Melodyne, we can't change stuff that's going on here without having to redo the entire process. So make sure all your vocals are all set, that you've cleaned everything up, you've put all your crossfades, you've picked the takes that you want. You can see I've definitely picked some different takes here. I'd like to piece together my final part here, and then we'll go into Melodyne. So now getting into this now, why would we use Melodyne? Melodyne, again, it's gonna be for us to tune vocals. So anytime that we're doing pitch problems, we're trying to tighten up and polish on them. And then then this is the spot that we want to do that. So, and then I'll talk about how I handle this after we go through into Melodyne. So I'll give us a quick listen of this verse and let you hear my unprocessed raw vocals. Luckily, it doesn't bother me too much. So, and this would be before you've really done any mixing whenever you go in and do this to this, but you can, just as long as you really go in and before you're mixing your vocals, at least you should do this, so.
never-ending canvas lies above us, can change your perspective.
And let me put this on here because I know that this needs a little quick guitar that's actually gonna sit back there how I want. And then we'll get Melodyne back open. Cool.
A never-ending canvas lies above us, can change your perspective of what this world is. Want you to open your eyes, want you to open your mind.
So there's just a hint of vocals that are just completely raw and unprocessed in this song. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work with the vocals. So we're gonna work with Melodyne. So this is Melodyne here. For those of you that are, whenever you're going in to use this, the first thing for us to get Melodyne into this is we have to actually transfer Melodyne into the actual program in real time. So one of the first things we want to do before I even do that is I want to, only use this for sung vocals. Anything that's like actually like rapping or screaming or stuff that's non-tonal, like it's not going to, like Melodyne will end up just like messing it up. It won't work in that, but anything that has a pitch, it works great for that. Technically, you can use Melodyne on stringed instruments, anything that has an actual melody and you can tune it. Now it depends what level you have. You'd have to have like at least this editor level to do more tuning. They go all the way up to studio level, which is the highest one. But as long as you got Assistant or Essential, those will let you work with mono single tracks. So for this, after we've done that, the next thing I want to do for Melodyne is set my key and scale. So one of the things I want to do here is I already know what the key is because I wrote the song, so I know it's in D minor. It's technically D harmonic minor, but in this scenario, that's not going to really affect what's going on with the overview of what I'm looking at for the scale. So now that I've set my scale, another thing I like to do is check my settings or my algorithm now. So if you have other options that's not mono, you have the ability to pick some of these other things, but we're always going to be monophonic when you're doing vocals. Let me see. On the pitch grid, I don't like the pitch grid to snap. And I'll tell you, once you pick this scale, if you wanted the notes to go super hard to the scale, it'll just automatically do that, or chromatic snap will just snap them to the next closest note. I do not like this in Melodyne because I want to have control of exactly where the vocal is sitting in it. So because Melodyne is this is where you are. If you're trying to super clean up a vocal and get it tuned and as perfect as possible, this is the program you are going to be doing it in. Well, I would tell you to play, if you're not comfortable with scales, then you're in a pretty big trouble at that point. So if you don't know how to do it yourself from just playing, then you would either need to ask the artist to get it, because there's not something here that's just like gonna tell you the scale immediately. What you can, up here, there's technically a thing you could use auto key if you wanted to. Now on this, I usually use, you see auto key used usually a lot on 2 buses. So, usually if I don't know the key and I don't have any programs at home that tell me what key I'm listening to, I pick up my guitar or play my piano right next to me and just start playing scales until I know that I'm in the right key. Because if you're comfortable with your major and minors and know your relative major and minors, I'm not going to get super into that. But if you understand relative major and there's a minor scale, like a D minor scale and an F major scale are the exact same notes and the exact same scale. Those of you who are taking Greg Jones, ask him more about relative majors and minors, and you can really get into that because that could be a whole lesson on itself. It's going to be mainly that's a big thing about knowing your whole and half steps and what lines up with a key, and that will tell you almost immediately. But other than that, there is a thing with Autotune, and I'll show you here in a minute with Autotune that you can use auto key, and it'll let you play through the song and technically tell you what key it is. I'm sure there's other plugins you can find. I've just never had a need for them because I can figure it out in 10 seconds what the key is from playing a keyboard or a guitar. So I'm usually just not really worried about that. So if that's something you're not good at, then I would say start practicing your scales, or then get a plugin that tells you what key it is when you play it put over a guitar track or put it over an entire instrumental track. So yeah, glad y'all thought that was funny. So anyway, so now that I've done the now that I've done the key and I got that set and I've done it and I've gone in here and set my pitch grid, and I don't want that on snap because I want to be able to control it exactly. You can decide if you want to have the time grid active or not. Like, I mean, I usually don't, like, I'm not really too worried about the time grid because I'm not moving things on time with it. So I'm going to keep the vocals. Like, I would move all my timing for the most part before I ever got in Melodyne. Now with the new ones, you can do a little more movement, but it's, if you wanted to have the editing sitting that way and you might do something differently with it without Melodyning, then, you know, any editing you're doing inside of Melodyne is not going to be on the actual clip until you commit it later, and anything you do in Melodyne will then be in there. So now that I've turned those off and I have my scale set, now we're going to go in and let's just get into these plugins, which is really the main thing, what we're going for here tonight. So we need to transfer in real time. So I have my section set on this verse A, so I'm going to hit transfer here, and now I'm just going to press play on my space bar and let it go.
A never-ending canvas lies above us, can change your perspective of what this world is. Want you to.
So the other vocals you were hearing there were not on that track, so Melodyne's not going to see it. So this is that whole section that I've just brought in. So we can technically control what it's looking at down here. This little scroll bar is controlling what you're overall looking at on the screen, and you can make that smaller or bigger, however you want, if you're controlling it that way. We're going to go into some other ways where we can move faster around Melodyne too. But I just want you to see the main overviews. You have the same thing on the side over here, where this can move, and you can zoom in as much as you want from that part too, because I can see there's my highest note and there's my lowest note, so I don't really need to look at anything else underneath that in this section. So that's usually a good thing for any section you're looking at to really sit there. Now, a thing too, before you're going into Melodyne, this is why when I talk about this, like, Autotune is just gonna hard put you on the key no matter what. There's a lot of different little lines and things that are going on in here. So first, let's just talk about, you know, what we're looking at audio-wise before we get into the tools. So you have these blobs, and then you have all these sharp lines that are going on as well inside this. So this is what my voice is actually, or whatever source you have in here, this is what my voice is actually doing, like, is these lines right here. Like, this is the pitch lines of what I'm singing.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
So you can see, like, literally, this is like my voice, like, lifting into that note or dropping back down to this note. So the line is what, the blob is just kind of the overall segment of where Melodyne is picking up that you're singing, like where this note's at. So once I have that, and also, like, once the scale's set and this is coming here, you can see anything that's grayed out is not actually in the scale. So this is why it's good to know the scale, because you can know where you're already moving. But if I snap it hard to the grid, it may move this whole piece here, and I may need to do much more adjusting with these lines than it just snapping straight to it. So you actually want to listen to the vocal with Melodyne and make sure that because sometimes singers may have a passing note, which is them, like, doing like a half note, like in between something to get to another note. Like if they were hitting a little roll from like a C, B, B flat thing here, and you might want to keep that note in there, but if you do a hard pitch, it takes it off that and it doesn't sound as original as how the vocalist originally did it. So keep that in mind when you're working with vocals. Know what the melody is, and then sometimes they'll be off where you need to know what the melody should be too. So, and then you'll have to fix that. So, just the more experience you get and think about what the vocal's supposed to be doing and where the note's supposed to be, and take your time until you're comfortable with this, then you can go through it a lot faster. So, and obviously, guys, any questions as we go through this, please ask them, and I'll be happy to go into more detail about it. So the lines are going to be the most important things we want to look at, because that's really, like, not the blobs. The blobs are there and it's nice to, like, as an overview to see what's going on, but the lines are the most important thing, and that's what we're going to be working with and making sure we control and get in the right spot. So now that we've brought this in, we talked about our audio, let's go ahead and let's talk about our tools in Melodyne, and then we'll start tuning this whole section right here. So you have the control of your tools right up here, or you can, anytime you're inside the Melodyne screen, you can right click and it'll open these tools, which is the way I would suggest you doing this, because it is a lot faster to move around and you know, I can zoom in really quickly and then switch to another tool without ever having to go anywhere. And then that's all right here, which is really nice. So I kind of encourage you to do that, just get used to it in that section. Sometimes it's easier to set these zooms sometimes with the ends, depending on what you're trying to look at. Before we go in and go over, I guess we'll go look at those in a moment. But so we have a main tool here, which is underneath that we have a scroll tool and a zoom tool. So this main tool lets me grab sections. It lets you move notes. Because it's the main tool, technically you can use that with the pitch tool where you're technically moving this around, but you can actually press Control Z in this and it'll actually do it. You also have these back buttons right here that allow you to do it. So I just wanted y'all to see that. Sometimes it'll be weird about why it's not showing the right thing. But so this is main tool, grab and move with this. This is your zoom tool. We can easily zoom with it once we go in. Then you have your scroll tool, which is just what allows us to move left and right, because otherwise if I try to move left and right, it's just trying to grab. So if you're super zoomed in and you're trying to look at something, you have to go to the scroll tool. Pitch tool here allows me to actually move the pitch of the note. But remember, you can actually do this from this tool too, if you're just trying to grab a bunch of stuff. Below this is our pitch modulation tool, which allows me to fix vibratos or smooth something out. Now, the flatter I go, the more fake it can start sounding, so just kind of be careful about that. Whenever you're inside this too, like I have this set up to play right, and it shows that in Melodyne, but if you want to just listen to Melodyne by itself or the vocal soloed, you can double click inside Melodyne.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
So I can do that by just double clicking inside here.
A never-ending canvas.
But then if I hit spacebar, it's going to go in the song with what's going on. So you just treat that like the session that's going on there. So then the other thing below the pitch modulation tool is a pitch drift tool, which allows you to kind of, pitch modulation is tons of drift, like extreme movements, and then pitch drift is very light movements to try to level things out. I'll show all these in motion here in a second. I just kind of want y'all to see what each of these tools does. Then you have a format tool, which actually like changes the actual pitch of this. So like if I was playing it now.
A never-ending canvas.
So you can do, you know, little format things if that's really.
A never-ending canvas.
And then you can just double click on it and it'll bring it back to normal.
A never-ending canvas.
So that's the format tool, which you can use that in there. Amplitude just makes these, just if you're trying to make an actual thing stronger. I usually like to do clip gain stuff at the actual clip level, but if you decide you want to do it in Melodyne, that is totally fine with me if that's what you want to do. Like that's why these tools are here. This is our timing tool, which allows us to actually move like where the note is. So you can see in Melodyne, we can do tons of control. I can actually change the length of these words.
A never-ending canvas.
Which is not what I would really want to do. I just want to show you there.
A never-ending canvas.
But there may be some times where you're trying to, you know, be very subtle.
A never-ending canvas.
Or change the timing on something, and you can do that with the timing tool. Now there's another one called the time handle tool, which allows you to double-click in another area, and basically you can stretch out from that part of the word and actually get even more specific.
A never-ending canvas.
Which you can see, like I can actually go in and do, and you can put little points on there from just double clicking on the note from the time handle tool. The attack speed tool is gonna let you just use these little nodes here, and it pushes either the attack of the note farther or away, so all the way down it's gonna be super slow attack.
A never-ending canvas.
All the way to the top's gonna be a super exaggerated fast attack.
A never-ending canvas.
And then we have our natural one.
A never-ending canvas.
So that's just our fade in tool. And then lastly is our note separation tool, which we're gonna use a ton of this. This allows us to separate different sections of cuts from where a section is happening, and this is something we're definitely going to be wanting to be using a lot. So that's just a brief overview of our tools. Now there are some faster like little overviews just so you know that you can do. So you can click this correct pitch button and it has a whole center where I can, again, this is gonna snap it straight to the grid. Like the more I move this, the more you can see how it's moving those pitches. It gets them close to G. I mean, most of my notes are pretty close, so I may do this manually. But if it's a song you know is gonna be dead on the key and nothing is gonna be weird like that, you can go on and just like press this 100% on anything you grab, and then you can see that it moves them.
A never-ending canvas.
Which already
A never-ending canvas.
already tightened that up a lot from where it was.
A never-ending canvas. A never-ending canvas.
But some of that doesn't feel as natural as I want it to be. So I'm gonna reset this all the way back. And anytime that you do something you don't want to do, you can go back to a node and just right click and just go to reset parameters and just click like reset all pitch parameters, and it'll do any of those that you have. Let's see, make sure there's no things I need to reset. So they're all sitting where they should be. And that's the overview of our tools. So now this is how I would approach this scenario now, going in and pitch correcting this vocal.
A never-ending canvas.
And on some of these, you know, I might, you know, make this a little stronger depending on where I want it to be.
A never-ending canvas. Never.
And on these, when I have something that has this much, like these many like nodes that are moved like that, I'm going to end up chopping these. I usually try to chop them like right about the midway section where these up and downs are happening. And so now, instead of this note being like a G flat, which it shouldn't be, I can get this note a little more controlled and get it, and I may end up doing even more than
a never-ending canvas.
Where, because we can go in, you know, and we can actually smooth some of this out. But remember, the more you smooth it out, the more you take out some of their, like some of their feel and inflection to it. So I'm not trying to get too much on flattening it out unless it's just the sound that I want it to be.
A never-ending canvas.
And on these though, this is stuff sometimes you know, and because this is like a lead in into it. So this may be, if I want that lead in to be a little smoother. Let's take
a never-ending canvas. A never-ending canvas.
I can use this would be something where I might use the pitch drift tool just to smooth that transition down a little bit, and then I may, you know, move. And then I might, you know, do a little pitch modulation there.
A never-ending canvas.
So like down here, I would likely cut this right here to get a little more control.
A never-ending canvas. A never-ending canvas.
So that's me doing, like, you know, I'm doing everything by hand. I mean, I'm trying to chop all, like, any little subtle things that aren't working how I want to out of the way. You can attack stronger on these lead-ins if you want to try to approach those more, but sometimes if you take out too much of this, then it just doesn't feel natural with what they're leading into.
Lies above us.
So like that, you know, I feel like I went a little, you know, I'm gonna move this a little quicker, because then we can, you know, tighten these up to their pitch drift, which that's not drifting where I want to anyway, because you can see like it's kind of acting up because it's trying to move up to a different note than it wants to. So I would go in, I would cut right here. I guess that one's not going to do too much with that cut. And then another thing you might do from this section when I'm on the pitch drift as well, you might see these, like whenever I click on the main pitch tool, you see these yellow lines show up. Like when I'm not in that, you don't see those yellow lines. It should allow me to show these little skis on here. There we go. And it lets you adjust the attack from note to note, where you can make something smoother or sharper from how that goes in.
Rending canvas.
So if I'm moving that, and it's like right in a certain little spot, like you'll see it when it comes in. And then like if I make it faster,
Rending canvas.
you can really smooth out a vocal from controlling that little section too from there. So I want y'all to know about that. Let's listen to this.
Lies above us.
So really what I might do on this scenario is, just because I know where my keys are sitting on this front, I might grab, you know, all this section, and actually I don't want to get that other, the end of that other one. I just want to get these. And I might move these, you know, just a little bit closer to their pitch drift, and then I'll move them, then I'll tighten them up a little bit from there, because then I'm just getting them closer to the actual pitch I want them to be at, and now I can really fine tune them.
Lies above us.
So then I might...
Lies above us. Lies above us. Lies above us.
Let's see what this sounds like down here.
Lies above us.
So, you know, that feels a little, you know, doesn't feel like it's right where we want it to be. Let's see if we can...
Lies above us.
So that's where I would probably split, pull this down closer to the kind of G area and get this.
Lies above us. A never-ending canvas. Lies above us.
Then I would likely, same thing, I'm going to drift this down just a little bit and make that a little bit smoother. Gonna do a cut here and tighten this up a little bit. Use my pitch tool to flatten that a little bit, get that note a little stronger at the end.
Lies above us. Lies above. A never-ending canvas. Lies above us.
And as I'm getting these all kind of dialed in, again, this is a section, like second you see that huge cut, like I'm gonna go ahead and chop this.
Can change your perspective. Can change your perspective.
So now you can see how I'm really, it's like what I'm doing here is I'm getting these things close, getting the notes, like this is what I'm saying, you gotta see where the notes are, because if I didn't chop that, that note was technically sitting where it's like half in between these two notes, and I had to chop it in half and move one up to the right note and then move the other one back down to the other note that I wanted it to be.
Can change your perspective.
Which see, that's really strong on this, like this is a pretty intense bunch of cuts here, so I'm gonna try to make this a little more.
Can change your perspective.
Let's see, I'm gonna move this down right quick. Let's see if that feels right.
Can change your perspective.
See, I don't really like that, where that, like I don't really like that being like locked to that. I think it feels more natural.
Can change your perspective.
I feel like that dip that I'm doing right there feels more natural, so this is why I'm trying to keep I'm tuning the vocals, but trying to keep them natural at the same time.
Can change your perspective.
And then here's our last thing. Let me put it on. And this is a thing that would tell me, boom, let me chop that. That's pretty crazy. Let me chop that. That's pretty crazy. I'm going to chop that because that's pretty crazy. And so you can kind of chop all these, like just looking at it, and then. listen now.
Of what this world is. Of what this world is. Of what this world is.
And I might tighten this up just a tad. I mean, this is just kind of stuff I'm doing on my vocal a little bit because this take wasn't
Of what this world is.
as tight as vocally tight as I might have wanted it to be.
Of what this world is.
And I don't like what I did there. I like that to sound more natural.
Of what this world is.
Let me smooth this out a little bit. That's a little, it's a little higher than I, no. Let me move that.
Of what this world is.
And so this might be a thing, you know, where I kind of finagle these a little bit to try to get this to,
of what this world is.
get that a little bit tight right there. So now that I've gone through those and I have my section set.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what.
Now let me get it where you can just see the whole tuned piece here. So now I would go through and then listen to this, you know, all the way through. Then you'd go do this exact same thing, like for the second verse of this, like I brought this in, but then I would go transfer in this second verse over here and then do that section. We're gonna look at auto-tune next for the rest of this, but this is the process I would go through and do.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is. Want you.
And it just gets my vocals in such a more controlled place where I'm on the right notes, and but I still have my, you know, the feel that's in my voice. So what I would do from here after I've done this, let's say I've done all my Melodyne and I Melodyned to the second verse and got that completely done. Now what I would do is I would, you know, like I'm just gonna do something really quick on it just to now we'll go ahead and just leave it like it is. It's not too big of a deal. Because like if you were doing it, I'll actually do it just so y'all can see the sections. But like if I open this in Melodyne again and I have that section, now it's going to transfer it in and you'll see this section start popping up down here, farther down the...
The big cities and false lights are hiding the giants in the sky.
Cool, so now you see like I got verse 1 over here, I got verse 2 over here, so now we can actually, you know, we see the whole thing. I'm just gonna do these really tight, like quickly. I'm not gonna, just so it does something close to what it, just so it's moved a little bit with it. So now that I've done these two things, let's just say that I've done that.
The big cities and false lights are hiding the giants in the sky.
So like using the fast pitch correct can get you a lot closer to where you want to where your ending is, but you're still going to want to go in and fine tune all these like I was just doing and making your cuts on any large jumps and then doing any movements or modulation or pitch drifts to make those vocals sound smoother. You just really want to make sure you're listening to the vocal and what you're wanting it to sound like. So just keep that in mind. Now after I've done my Melodyne and I have got everything set where I want, I would commit this. So at this point what you would do is we can do it from this side too, it doesn't matter. You can right click on your verse here, and if we click commit on this track, it's going to bring up this commit menu, consolidate clips, yes, volume, mute, copy sends, groups, assignments. So I don't want group assignments on this right now. I'm not going to do sends. I'm just going to make the next track inactive. If you didn't want to see it, you can hide and make it inactive. You can choose delete, do nothing. I would never choose delete if I was you, but you can do that from here. So now that I got this, I don't need any of the automation that's going on in here. I don't even really need any of this. I'll keep the send on it just cause, but we'll go ahead and click OK. Now it's gonna render out this whole verse, and then you're gonna see a new track made that's gonna say verse A.cm, and now it's gonna be the same, and now it's gonna be with all the Melodyne tuning and processing on it. Okay, so now I got those in there, and so I'm gonna actually make this, just so you can hear now, you'll hear that this is tuned with the song.
A never-ending canvas lies above us, can change your perspective of what this world is. Want you to open your eyes.
So now that I have my commit, now this is like something, now I can work with this because it's already melodined. Now, this is typically where I might go in and use this is where I might use Autotune as a bumper. I'm gonna show you it as a bumper, and then I'll show you it as an effect. So, and the bumper is kind of an effect in itself too. But for those of you who are able to use this up here at school or have auto key, like in this scenario, you know, most of the time when I'm using the auto key stuff, I'm doing it on hip hop stuff, and they just usually have like a 2-track or a stereo track that they have to record in, and you can just drop this straight on the stereo track and it'll pick it up. Doing a band on this, it's gonna be, I mean, it's pretty, I'm just putting it on the guitar track because it's easier, because I know it's gonna pick up the keys, but it's gonna take it a minute. You're gonna see it's gonna like kind of have to look and find the key all around. And then let me pull up Autotune on this as well over here. And this is what our Autotune is going to look like. And we have settings over here. One of the things we want to make sure is on is that enable auto key scale scale detection, which is on in the settings. And what that's going to do is it'll automatically switch this key. If you don't have auto key, you need to find out the key and then always select the input type for what the singer is. So soprano, if you don't know what a soprano is, it's a super high female voice. Alto, tenor. Alto is the low for the female voice. Tenor, it's the high end so alto and tenor are low females and high males. Basically, majority of males, unless you have a super low voice, is a tenor. And so most people are in this range of alto and tenor. There's not as many sopranos or super low males that are like in like the Barry White thing down here. So or if you're using this for something else, I've never used this for anything outside of vocals, but I guess you can do some cool stuff with it. With bass, I could see where you could use this on bass as kind of a bumper to keep them closer to timing. So, but you always want to select I'm a tenor, so I'm picking that. And then if you need to select the key, you know, you could go in and select the key, whatever you want it, whatever it is, which I know it's D minor, but I'm going to click one that's different just so it show you how it switches when I go through. So let's just do C major chromatic right now, and that's sitting there. Once I go into Autotune here, and F major is technically correct. We'll see I think it switches to D minor when it picked up after a bunch of chords that it realized it was D minor. So now I can do that. I can press send to Autotune. And now when I open up Autotune, it's automatically on D minor. So for those of you who don't have that, up at the school at least we have auto key. I personally don't have auto key, but just because it's another plugin you have to buy. But for those of you who do have it, it makes it a lot easier, and it can attach straight to your Autotune plugins and send the key information right to it. Okay, and then lastly, so now talking about Autotune, this is really good at tightening vocals. Let me make it where I can just open it from this section right here. If you go over here, we can open this, and I can just put my inserts A through E, and now I can see that. So what Autotune's really good at doing is it's really good at tightening or moving notes off pitch directly super hard to the grid or to the key that you've put it in. So like there's really no passing notes going on in here. We'll talk about how you can do the rehumanize and make it feel like it's not as strong on there, but it's something. If it's a sung vocal that I really want to be controlled, I'll always do Melodyne first, like I just did, and then I'll bring in Autotune after it. Sometimes on hip hop stuff, I'll just go straight to this and do it super strong if it's supposed to be like that super strong, like Future, T-Pain kind of sound. But even using Melodyne before some of those could work well. But again, it depends what the vocalist is doing, because some of this stuff, especially in the hip hop realm, they're almost singing like so far off key that the effect you're getting from the Autotune is because it's so far off key and it's pulling their notes so far off key that it sounds like that T-Pain sound. So that's why sometimes I might not use it if I'm trying to make it really super sound like that sound. But for most other things, if I'm using it in pop or rock, it's going to be more for control and bumpers on the outside of that. So just to go over the main knobs that we're looking at here, we have Retune Speed, which is how fast that this stuff is moving, like you'll see right here. I'm just going to...
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
Like if I put this Retune Speed all the way at 0, like it's like 0, it's just like immediately going to full note.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
And now you're super hearing. Now, well, there's pretty close to it. If I can put it on classic, and then it goes into.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective.
But you can hear it's only doing that when it has to like 100% really move it pretty hard. So that's how, I mean, you can go into the classic mode and just push this Retune Speed like crazy, and then you can get that super T-Pain sound in there.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
And this can help
change your perspective of what this world is.
This can help make it sound this humanized, makes it sound a little less robotic.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
Where you can really hear all the bends that it's doing right there. So that's how you would really approach if you're personally going for the T-Pain sound in a thing that you're going for. But for other than that, I usually wouldn't push the Retune Speed that strong. Usually I'm going to listen to how far it's moving as these push. The farther away that these get on either side, this is it like pulling it down, this is it pushing it up. So if it's having to go all the way to 100, that means it's having to push a note completely 100% off the note that it is, and that's where you're really starting to get those sounds. The flex tune here lets me blend in more of the natural signal in with it, where it's not completely just Retune Speed. So this is kind of like you can think of it kind of like a mix knob, but not really. But it's letting you go. Because if I go to 100%, it's not gonna.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
So probably thinking about it like a mix knob is probably the easiest way for me to explain it to you, because it's just gonna control how much of the Retune Speed is up front on that, and how much of the regular voice is pushing back through. And then the humanized, the more you push it up, the more natural it's gonna kind of try to make it sound for what's going on there. So usually I'm gonna be using those 3 kind of knobs to dial in auto-tune for the most part. So let me dial in this little section here.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is. A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is. A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is.
So you see, I'm not really having any huge moves right here. It's just really tightening it up. Like, so let's say if I take it off.
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
And here it is with it.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is.
So this is me using it more as now, like this is something like on this song, this has a lot of electronic kind of elements in there, and it's really.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is. Want you to open your eyes.
So that's, now it's really tightened it up. It gives it that kind of more just like super polished kind of sound, if that's what you're going for on that. Like if you don't want it to be like that, then you don't have to use auto-tune after Melodyne, but it's going to give you that more polished kind of poppy, it's going to give you that more shiny kind of sound, or it's just tighter, which is something, a lot of the, especially in the modern stuff when they're singing, they're still doing that even if you're talking about the heavy kind of stuff too. So it's just something that's a really good tool to have go on that. And as I've shown, you can actually go in and control some of these, you could go in and decide if there was notes you didn't want to move around or any of that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I'm really trying to dial in the Retune Speed where it doesn't sound like it's a robot doing it.
A never-ending canvas,
unless I want it to do,
lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is.
And if that's what you're going for, then that's great. Just, you know, you just want to really...
A never-ending canvas lies above us.
Where you're really dialing in, where it's...
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective.
Which more about where I was at is really more where I like it. You know, I'm getting, it's smooth, it's tightening it, but it's not.
A never-ending canvas lies above us. Can change your perspective of what this world is.
And you can decide for yourself with Autotune. You could commit that again if you wanted to with all the Autotune settings, or if you just want to have Autotune as the first thing in the chain after you commit Melodyne, that's totally fine too. So, but there's a lot of times that, like with pitch stuff, like it's just a really, you know, it's really processing heavy. So if you have it set and you know you're not going to adjust it anymore and you're super happy with it and you've listened through all the way through the track, like I will say that again on every single one of these, listen through all the way with the track, listen to it in solo, make sure everything's right, and then listen to it with the track all the way through. And then if you're happy with everything sitting, then commit it, and then you can go into your mixing from there. But so that is the overview of Autotune and of Melodyne and how to use them in your productions. I hope that that clarifies with y'all a little bit better about vocal tuning and how you can approach them by using both of them, and how you can see that they are different tools, but now you can see how they work, and especially how they work hand in hand, especially in in all of the popular genres. And anything that's a sung vocal, there's likely going to be one or both of these on the sing vocals to just clean those up. But I hope this guys helps you out with it in your future productions, and this helps with your tuning and helps you with your projects moving forward. So thanks everyone for watching tonight. We will pick up again later in the week, and y'all have a great rest of the evening. I will see y'all next time. Later.
Thanks everybody for watching. If you found this content useful, please like this video. It will tell YouTube to show it to others. If you are enrolled, please go to the Seminars tab on the my.trcoa website and take the quiz over tonight's lesson. And if you need to book one-on-one time with an instructor, text 512-231-0344. If you aren't enrolled, go to trcoa.edu to find out more information about what we do. Also, please post in the chat subjects you'd like to see for our upcoming live streams. And as always, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye, everybody.